in your book, you talk about how the RBI had to make what you call the downward adjustment of the rupee, and how you actually had to, you apprehended that there would be political pushback to this. Now, this is a very relevant chapter, especially in the light of the debate around the rupee today. You have seen Finance Minister Sitharaman's comments. The rupee isn't weakening, the dollar is strengthening. So before I come to this debate in the present context, talk a little bit about why and how there's always political pushback when institutions like the RBI, economists like yourselves, actually argue for the rupee to find its own level.
Well, in one sense, when we moved to the market-determined exchange rate system in the early 1990s as part of the reform, our hope was that the normal market forces will determine what the exchange rate of the rupee will be, because that reflects the supply and demand for foreign currency, and therefore that would be the natural rate of the value of the rupee. But what is happening is that some decades ago, almost, the external value of a currency was almost determined by the internal value of the currency. That is what is called the purchasing power parity theory, which meant that if the rate of inflation in country A is higher than the rate of inflation in country B, then the value of the currency of country A, where inflation is higher, will lose. That is the old theory. But now what is happening is, it is not the current account, which I mean export of goods and services and import of goods and services, which go to determine the exchange rate of the rupee. Your new entry into the picture is the capital inflows. When capital inflows come into the country, then that is over and above what is happening because of the current account deficit. So a country A, or like country India, may be having a current account deficit, which we have been having for many years. But the capital inflows which come in really supply the dollar, supply the foreign currency. And therefore, the rate of the value of the rupee is not determined exclusively by the current account deficit. Now, the key factor playing a role is the capital inflows. When capital inflows come, the value of the currency gets strengthened. When capital flows go out, then the value of the currency comes down. So in some sense, what is happening today in the last few months or in the last few weeks is the outflow of capital. That is actually pulling the currency down. Yes. Because the factors in the home country are more favorable because the rate of interest has gone up there, or because of other factors. When foreign investors, particularly portfolio investors, sell their shares here and convert the rupees back into dollar, then there is a demand for dollar that comes because of the capital outflows, and that is what is really happening.
Do you agree? Do you agree with
in that sense?
Yes. Sorry. Do you agree with the government's present response to the plummeting rupee against the dollar? Because, in your time at the RBI too, while Dr. Manmohan Singh, as you said, was supportive, there's always a fear of a political resistance. It's not easy for politicians to just sit back and watch the rupee fall. They have to explain it to the public. Do you agree today with Finance Minister Sitharaman's statement on the rupee, saying it's the dollar that's strengthening, not the rupee that's weakening?
No, the point that I am making is that the value of the rupee today is being determined by the capital inflows and outflows. The factors influencing capital inflows and outflows are external factors as well as domestic factors. It is not as if that domestic factors are excluded from it. If, for example, the current account deficit goes up, then naturally that will also influence the value of the rupee. So you can't put it entirely on what is happening outside. But the fact is that at the present moment, the sudden decline, when there is a steady decline, you can attribute it more to the domestic factors. When there is a sudden decline, It happens because of the external factors. Therefore, but I would still say that two things are relevant. I think we should not overlook it in trying to manage the value of the rupee. One is a level of the current account deficit, and the other, the rate of inflation domestically versus externally. These are critical, and these are matters on which the role of the domestic authorities is extremely important. Therefore, you cannot get away from the fact that we need to manage it. We not manage the value of the rupee directly. We need to manage the economy in such a way. The current account deficit is as low as possible, and the rate of inflation domestically is not higher than elsewhere. I think both these things are critically important in managing the value of the rupee.